I'm excited to tell you my story because it's a story of a hero. It took me a while to figure out who the hero was. So I was born into a pretty tough environment with my family. My dad was, his story was all about addiction and drugs and all the byproducts of those things. So obviously being his oldest son, he made it hard for me and went through a season. I was about 10, and my dad had gotten to a point where he was being very violent to my mother. And so what does the oldest son do when dad's picking on his mom? He puts himself in the middle of it. So I did that. And my mom would get mad at me. So finally we had a deal where I would grab my brother and sister and I would sneak out the back and go across the street and sit on this park bench that was by this fish hatchery. And one night that happened, and I got to do that emergency route. And it was the first time I ever had a moment with Jesus. My mom, just before that, had accepted Jesus, and she was addicted to a lot of things and kind of was living a tough life of her own. And she had 3 kids before she was 21. So she had a lot on her plate with a husband like that. And I got to see her be healed of all that. And so that was like my first introduction to Jesus. And then shortly after, I had my own. And that was on that park bench, or that bench by the fish hatchery. Jesus just told me that he was making a new story for me, and that, I was only 10, so I didn't really understand the concept, but that I was going to create a new legacy for myself, and that Jesus was going to be the center of that. I didn't know what that meant for a while. So I kind of lived a rough young life, and then I joined the military, knowing that I needed to change my story a little bit and break away from kind of what I was given. So I was in the military for a little while, and I got the opportunity to be in the dorms with this guy named Vince, and he would always kind of go out of his way to kind of love on me and take care of me. I was pretty dumb at the time, so he had lots of opportunities for that. So he would always pray with me and hang out with me and tell me about Jesus, and I secretly liked it, So one day he kind of got mad at me. My story was, I wasn't changing, and it was frustrating to him, so he told me he was done. And I went in my room, and I kind of prayed that, Jesus would show himself to me, and then I got deployed a week later to go to the Middle East. And in that time, I had an opportunity to kind of find Jesus, and I read my first book, which was a book of the Bible, and me and Jesus did a lot of work, and inside of that, we made a deal that if I became a man worthy of having a good wife, he would give me one, because that's what I felt like the next chapter looked like as a family man. So I did get that wife. It was kind of funny, because everywhere I went, when I got back, I would go, "Are you my wife? Are you my wife?" I really believed that he was going to hold up his end of the bargain. So, and he did, and I have 3 children, and I'm very, very thankful. So, but the favorite part of the story is kind of like what's been happening to me lately. I came from a lot of pain, but, like many of you probably, at some point you have to own your own story. And Jesus started working on that with me. And I think what he gave me was this sense of resiliency. I really can handle a lot, and I always have been able to, even when it's hard. So I went to Africa recently, and I was introduced to this book called Lead Like Jesus. I don't know if some of you have heard of that, but it's amazing. You should read it. And in there, it talks about you not being the hero of the story, but Jesus is, and how when you're a leader, you have an opportunity to love and care for others. And I don't know, something about that just really hit home. I'm a leader in business, and business is hard. And but when you have Jesus, it's kind of easier. So I'm kind of getting to a place in my life where I'm not keeping score as much, and I'm learning to have fun and enjoy the man in the mirror and appreciate kind of who I am. And I'm not my father anymore, and now I am a father. So it's just different. So my story is kind of one of those stories where I'm still learning and still being, seeking the path of humility, trying to understand where I fit. But Jesus led me through a lot, so I can handle a lot today. So that's my story.